Well, so the way that I tend to perceive all of this is this idea that the relationship that we have as human beings to the concept of medicine
Yeah.
and seeking help for health and wellness issues is like a deeply ingrained externalization of locus of control. So you go to your doctor because you maybe weren't taught to listen to your body or to know what's happening, and you're scared and something's wrong, something hurts, something's not working. And you go and you say, okay, you have the expert knowledge, you tell me what's wrong with me, and you fix it. And in a lot of cases, that works really well. I mean, we think about Western medicine saves lives on a regular basis. But it doesn't necessarily, that mindset or that relationship doesn't necessarily work in all cases with all expressions of health and wellness. So in some capacity, the way that I practice and the way that I try to mentor my students in practicing is that our role as the clinical herbalist is not to try to fix things, nor is that the role of the herbs to fix people's problems. Like, okay, so as a clinician, you come to me, my job is not to try to fix you. My job is not to put that sort of hierarchy of I'm a knowledge holder and you're going to be the one who's going to benefit from me doing something for you or to you. My job is actually the reverse. It's about helping and teaching you to really listen to your body, and as a response to that, finding the tools that are going to work to support your body based on your own experiences. And also, I say to my students that my job is not about trying to fix you. And why would I, or how could I possibly, as a practitioner, take on the responsibility for the ways that you decide to treat your body? Because I can't control that. I have no control over the choices that you make towards how you treat your body. But I can advocate for you in changing your relationship with your body so that you learn to treat it differently. And maybe in learning to treat your body differently and building that different relationship with self and care. And, I'm on the same bus with everybody else with all of this, by the way. I don't have it all figured out. But in that capacity, I am there with you as you journey into relationship with body. And the herbs are the most incredible tools for this work. So I just take this idea of, which I think is different than the Western medical model, and it's different than the way that we're used to as Westerners interfacing with health and wellness, where I kind of just hand all of that back to the client and I say, okay, I'm here with you on this journey, but this is really going to be about you stepping into a different relationship with your body and unpacking all of that. And that's where the herbs are the most effective. They're not going to be something that you can just, it's not an externalized source of a solution. It's not a solution to swallow. The herbalist is not the fixer. We're a facilitator. And I think that mentality is very, very different than, Western medicine, and medical elitism also. And we take more time, we set things up in a way that we practice to really spend that time listening, and in listening, reflecting back to our clients that they indeed have body knowledge, that they can really tap into, and introducing them to these tools, these herbs, is totally a way for them to really start to feel empowered in their own body knowledge. And when you don't feel afraid and you feel empowered, you're more likely to take action or to be, to manifest your own ways in the world. When we're scared, it's just that much more easy to externalize that locus of control or need someone to fix for us. So both worldviews are needed, I think. Sometimes we have to. For example, I get bit by a copperhead in Appalachia, I am going to externalize that locus of control to the hospital and be like, I don't want to die. And there's a lot of circumstances, I could think that would be the case. Even cancer treatment, for example. But not all things need to be like that. There has to be also a reclamation. So I think the herbs help us with that. So I think one of the largest sort of obstacles that a lot of us have in this Western mindset is sort of a tendency towards dissociation and disembodiment. It's almost like we're taught in utero to not be embodied. We're taught, very quickly that the world that we need to live in is the one that exists from here up. I'm here up. A lot of us have really complicated and difficult relationships with our bodies. A lot of us are not in touch with our own sensations. And you underpin that with, some of the traditions that are coming out from rationalism and the Western scientific method and all these really deep sort of cultural influences that are teaching us that our sense perception, our lived experience, our body intelligence is not like a legitimate pathway of knowledge. And so we're taught forcibly to just operate in our brains because that works better in our economy. And also we are taught that our own intuitive sensory knowledge is not able to perceive what is real or what is true. We have to remove ourselves from reality in order to perceive what is real and true. So what I think about the idea of the herbs and doing the plant study the way we did and herb tastings and herbs in general is that it is a very embodied practice. There's scent involved, there's taste involved, especially if you're using traditional preparations like tinctures and teas and things. And so it is an invitation to start to listen to your own body's senses and your own physical somatic experience as a legitimate source of information. And as you start to build that relationship with, oh, this tastes like this, it makes me feel like this, oh, my stomach's gurgling, oh, I feel a bit more clear, you start to listen and believe, and that relationship with your body and yourself becomes closer, and because it becomes built more on trust and understanding and, oh yeah, what my body's telling me is actually real, and I can believe that, and I can listen to that. And so I think it helps because it just takes us that step deeper into relationship, because we're just listening to our senses and we're trusting them. And that's definitely not something that's generally taught to us when we're growing up, learning how to take care of our bodies. And that's what I love about Gertian plant study, is that it's really a crossover to me, especially in the herbalism realm, with somatic experiencing and really learning to listen to the body and be in the world in a very embodied way, which is a difficult journey. A lot of us are disembodied for very, very legitimate reasons. And stepping into body and being in relationship with body, learning to trust body, learning to think about body as being a safe place, these can be really, really hard, deep psychological challenges for people. And this is another role of the herbalist, holding space for all of that, and that journey, that emotional realm journey that also goes in. So yeah, that's how it all fits together for me. Yeah, I live in my head. My body is telling me I'm hungry, but I'm not listening, and I don't listen to the point of being so hungry that I just then grab something quick and sugary because I've just got to keep going. And then within the course of a couple of years, after repeating these patterns and not listening to the signals, I'm now unwell. It would be maybe that's a bit of a fantastical jump, but if you know what I mean. So being disembodied is not being in relationship with body, not listening to your body's signals, not taking care of the body. It could even be sort of like a dissociative sort of thing where body is not safe, body attacks me, body is not friend, body is enemy. Anything that sort of forces you into the psychology of that I is really from here up. I do think Western culture definitely, especially with the underpinnings of Western science, values rationalism over empiricism, or this idea of my teachers at the Nature Institute talk about object thinking versus living thinking, and we're applying object thinking most of the time into our realities. I suppose dissociation or being disembodied could also be applying object thinking to the body, rather than the living thinking that we explored in the plant study, which is, about observing the dynamic nature of a thing and being in relationship with the dynamic nature of a thing based on your sense experiences, of being present with that and beholding that and, bearing witness to that. So that even also means your own body, your own physical body is also a phenomenon to be studied, to be experienced. And our consciousness of physical body is also a phenomenon to be experienced. So it does all kind of come together, at least in my brain. It's just like, yeah, yeah,
A pretty wild.
yeah.
Well,
Well, that's a big question because I don't have any direct lineage with ancient traditions, sort of outside of what my perceived bloodline is. I mean, I come from like like generations of colonizers, really. But one of the things that I have appreciated getting back into with tracing my bloodlines back to Scotland and Northern Europe, and even thinking about, for example, what I really enjoy about the work of Goethe is that it is coming from the German tradition, which is a part of my cultural heritage. So to say that, though, I feel like has been a very Western cultural journey for me to kind of come into this way of thinking and being, which is not new. This way of thinking and being in the world is very human, and I think how we actually are forced to live our lives in Western society is very inhuman. So I feel like I've maybe found a way to try to circle back to this sort of like, I don't know, this human way of being in the world that many other cultures across space and time really already have as a part of their worldview. I think, yeah, this idea of living thinking is not new. This idea of listening to body and body senses is not new. I mean, this is how we evolved, I think, even as mammals. We forget sometimes that we were animals on the planet scavenging at one point. Or there's still human beings that live as hunter-gatherers and are still having to live in a very sensory, listen to body, listen to environment, pay attention to using your senses to really navigate reality. I mean, that's still a thing for humanity in some parts of the world. So, yeah, yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.